that core belief is kind of that internal voice that you say to yourself over and over and over and over and over, and it feeds pretty much everything we do.
Today's guest, Sabrina Trobak, went from reimagining how struggling students learn as a teacher, school counselor, and vice principal to running a counseling practice with a 2-year waitlist. Her book, Not Good Enough, breaks down anxiety and core beliefs with practical tools, illustrations, and deep insights, so more people can finally start to heal.
Before I learned this model of therapy, my core belief was not good enough, not important, not valued. I did for them. I put my needs of what I needed to do to prove to myself that I was a good enough mom over their needs of what they really needed for them to help grow and develop.
What are core beliefs and where does it start?
Our core beliefs, honestly, start before we're even born. We inherit them from our parents. So it is a learned behavior. It's not genetic.
The core belief of not good enough. How does this kind of become a reality for people? How did you come about originally moving into the holistic side of this practice?
This model of therapy was actually created by a man named Tony Martins. I really kind of just learned this model of therapy from him. But a really, really important part of this model when he was creating it was that holistic approach. Each part of those 4 quadrants are all connected to each other. And what we say is if there's a fracture in one, there's going to be a fracture in all. You believe in yourself, you can handle it, you'll do it. If you don't believe you can handle it, you're not going to do it. Everything we do for a reason. So what do I get out of making excuses? I don't have to change. I don't have to do anything different. I can stay stuck.
Welcome to Compassiviste Dialogues. I'm your host, Ali Horiat. My goal in this program is to educate our audience about various global issues and how we can help. Special guest today, Sabrina Trobak, a seasoned counselor and educator with over 14 years of experience in family and individual therapy, complemented by 2 whole decades in teaching. So that's about 35 years in this field. So we're going to learn a lot today. She holds a master's degree in counseling psychology and a bachelor's in education. She's the founder of Trobak Holistic Counseling, where she emphasizes addressing core beliefs such as feeling not good enough or not important, guiding people toward healing and self-acceptance. In 2023, she authored Not Good Enough, Understanding Your Core Belief and Anxiety, which is pretty much a handbook offering insights and strategies for personal growth. In a world where many of us grapple with feelings of inadequacy and anxiety, understanding the roots of these emotions is very crucial. So today, we're going to delve into the transformative journey of recognizing and reshaping our core beliefs with Sabrina. So, hello, Sabrina, and welcome to Compassiviste Dialogues.
Thanks for having me. It's nice to be here.
Great. Let's start with definitions to set the tone. What are core beliefs, and how do they come to shape who we are, and where does it start? I mean, does it start in my 20s that I get core beliefs, or does it start when I'm 3 years old? So we get a kind of an understanding of what a core belief is.
Sure. So that core belief is kind of that internal voice that you say to yourself over and over and over and over and over, and it feeds pretty much everything we do. So we're constantly trying to prove to ourselves that our core belief is true. So if my core belief is not good enough, not important, not valued, I am going to see things. I'm going to be drawn to people, places, experiences in ways that reinforce and support that core belief. So it really is a driving force in our life for sure. But our core beliefs, honestly, start before we're even born. We inherit them from our parents.
Actually?
So if I have a parent whose core belief is not good enough, not important, not valued, and my other parent's core belief is not good enough, not important, not valued, how can they teach me anything else? So it is a learned behavior. It's not genetic, but if I grow up with parents who feel not good enough, they are going to have certain actions, behaviors, perceptions, the way they talk to themselves is what they're teaching me. So I am kind of born into that environment of not good enough, not important, not value.
I can absolutely see that because you're right. The behavior context is really, really powerful. And especially when you live in the world. I grew up in Switzerland and Dubai, and then I moved to Canada to go to university. I had been in such enclosed communities before moving to Toronto, and I moved to the most multicultural, like everybody from everywhere, all types of people, from the wealthiest to the poorest, everything mingled in one place. So I moved there, having never even met or seen or understood people with such diverse core beliefs. And I thought my core belief and my boarding school's core belief, because, we all lived together. We had the same beliefs, essentially. That was it. That was the world. That was really what I thought. And potentially, a little this way or that way, but not to the extent that I experienced them. And what you're saying now, I remember a lot of my friends, I would tell them, no, you can't think this way, or you can't hold that belief, or you can't, be pessimistic or anything that I said. And I started noticing that in their families, it actually is like that at home. So you start getting that conclusion that, it does matter, where it comes from. And it's kind of the backdrop. What you're doing in the real world, it's kind of the backdrop, even in the fictitious world, of things like Rich Dad, Poor Dad. The whole concept of that is break your core beliefs from your poor dad so that you can become wealthier in your future, right? I mean, that's right. What the whole book is about. But what you're doing is you're actually helping people fix, I guess, those core beliefs that keep them from the growth that they can have potentially in any areas that they want to, as opposed to just selling a book.
Right. And it's looking at things at a much deeper level. So just rather than just looking at, the behavior or the experience, like the rich dad. So you're the poor dad. So I'm going to be, rich and successful. Still can be a negative core belief of not good enough. Because now I'm trying to prove to everyone else that I'm good enough. Well, if I have to prove to everyone else that I'm good enough, I don't believe I'm good enough. Right? And so it is going back and sorting through and figuring out that core belief, how it's developed over the years, and how do you challenge and change it. And to change that core belief to good enough, important, and valued, it's a very slow, gradual change. Every little thing we do, every time I recognize, there's that core belief, every time I challenge it, I'm actually developing and creating that core belief, good enough, important, and valued. So when core belief is good enough, then I see things differently. I appreciate things differently. I feel more grateful. I feel more, I always say to my clients, they often come in and say, I'll say, what do you want? And they say, I just want to be happy. Well, it's not realistic. We're not always happy. Contentment, that's a goal. And that's the goal at the end of counseling is I just want to be content. I want to be at peace with myself. I want to know that no matter what comes up, I will handle it. I might not be graceful at it, but I will handle it. I'll figure it out. I'll be okay on the other side, and I will move on. What that core belief does is make us worry about every single thing. We question ourselves. We don't think we're going to be able to handle anything. Well, that creates a huge amount of worry and stress and overwhelm and lonely and fear of rejection that we live with every second of every day. That's exhausting. Not a lot of quality in life in that.
You're absolutely right. And now to better understand our core beliefs, where does this manifest, so to speak? I'm thinking, because in your book, you discuss the core belief of not good enough, specifically. And so how does this kind of become a reality for people? The reason I ask this is, in every space that a human can be. I mean, I could grow up in a school that isn't very athletic, and I'm athletic, so all of a sudden I feel good about myself. I move to a college that's very athletic, and I don't make the team. I'm not good enough. So in every moment of our lives, we could face not good enough because it's based on us kind of comparing, right? It's a comparative aspect. So, can we help this not good enough core belief? Because I feel like it will always pop up in life, right? Is it just about how we deal with it, or is there a preventative avenue as well?
So the core belief is more the perception than it is really about the event, right? So if my core belief is not good enough, I'm really athletic in my school. I go to another school. Of course, there's, I go to college or whatever it might be. Now there's way more athletes that are strong athletes. My core belief not good enough. I might not even try out because what's the point? I'm never going to make the team at this level anyways. Or I might try out, but then I beat myself up all the time over not being good enough or being on the third line rather than the first line. So it's all that negative self-talk, right? Blaming the coach. Well, I work just as hard, but the coach doesn't like me. Those are all feeding not good enough, not important, not valued. If my core belief is good enough, and I go from high school basketball or whatever to college, and now I've got really strong athletes. Well, that's a challenge. I've got to work a bit harder. I can see that my skills are good. They got me to where I am, but I can see that I need growth. Mm-hmm. So maybe I'm going to show up a bit early for practices every morning. I'm going to work a little bit harder. I'm going to do some extra drills. Maybe I'm going to realize, you know what? It's really just not for me. I like basketball when I could just, show up and do well. I don't really want to put a bunch of effort into it. So I'm not going to play basketball anymore, but I'm not walking away defeated. It's a choice I'm making that this really isn't just what I'm interested in anymore. Mm-hmm. So it's about that perception and how we choose to handle all these events more than it is really about the events. That core belief is always kind of making us second guess ourselves. It creates a ton of self-doubt, insecurity, anxiety. Mm-hmm. When we look at anxiety is actually lack of confidence, not believing in myself I can handle something. Mm-hmm. So if I have a lot of that core belief not good enough, I'm going to have more self-doubt. I'm going to have more anxiety. I'm going to worry about things all the time. If I'm always worrying about things, I'm reinforcing not good enough, not important, not valued.
So it's a lot deeper than just comparing yourself or analyzing the event, as you say. It's about how you work your way through all of the things that happen, because you have a preconceived notion that you take with you into the event, as you say. So if my preconceived notion is I'm not going to be on the third line of this hockey team, or I'm going to be on the first line, that's the event. But I'm a good hockey player and I'm good enough is the perceived notion that I have of myself. So whether I'm on the third line or the first line, it's a matter of, like you said, I'll skate more, I'll do more exercises so that I can be on the first line, or I'll just, it's not for me because I just want to play fun hockey with my friends in the backyard or something in the winters. And that's about it. So it goes a lot further than that. Now, I want to get into the holistic side of things because you and your practice emphasizes a holistic approach. It's in your name. And so it's about integrating the mind and the body in, a spiritual approach, essentially, to help healing and help overcome exactly what you're talking about, the not good enough. How did you come about originally moving into the holistic side of this practice and thinking this is something that should be done this way, as opposed to here's a bunch of pills, take those, you'll be fine. Never mind your core beliefs.
Right. So this model of therapy was actually created by a man named Tony Martins, who lives in southern BC. And so I really kind of just learned this model of therapy from him. But a really, really important part of this model when he was creating it was that holistic approach. Each part of those four quadrants are all connected to each other. And what we say is if there's a fracture in one, there's going to be a fracture in all. So when I'm working with my clients, we break down and look at each quadrant. We look at emotion, we look at mind. How's your brain going? How fast does it go? How many negative thoughts do you have? How often are you beating yourself up? How much can you not shut your brain off? How much do you catastrophize things and make them way bigger than what they need to be? We look at the body, right? All this physical stress and anxiety has an impact on us physically. So how's your stomach doing? What are your muscles like? How tense are your shoulders? So we're looking at the body as well. Anyone who has physical pain or a chronic illness, it often increases anxiety. If I have, say diabetes and I get a sniffle, I think, oh my gosh, I'm going to get sick and my sugars are going to go out of whack and I'm going to end up missing work and I'm going to be in the hospital and I'm going to create more anxiety, more stress for myself. So we got to look at the body too and how the body is working. Then we look at emotions. And this is a big one because we are not good at feeling our emotions. We generally can feel happy and angry. Those are the only two emotions that are really socially more acceptable. So what about fear, abandoned, anxiety, lonely, rejection, unheard, powerless, hopeless, helpless? We don't like to feel those emotions. So we also look at what are the emotions you're okay to feel? What are the emotions you don't want to feel? And what are the coping strategies you use to push down and avoid dealing with those emotions? So we're looking at things like alcohol, drugs, anger, gambling, busyness, all these different things that we're doing that as soon as emotion starts to come up, we switch to some sort of a coping strategy to push those back down so we don't have to feel them. We need to get better at recognizing those so we can start to feel our emotions and let them out. And then we look at spirit, and spirit is about our religious beliefs, but it also goes much deeper than that. It's about all of our values and all of our belief systems, what we believe about work ethic, about family, about loyalty, about integrity, about the medical system, the political system. It's all of our values and our beliefs. So we're looking at that person as a whole to help them sort through and figure that out. As that core belief shifts, we see significant shifts happening in each one of those quadrants as well.
That's very interconnected. And you know what? It's very aligned to how I designed Compassiviste, because I designed Compassiviste as an octopus, because I looked at the octopus and I saw an ecosystem of life. It's got several hearts, several brains, and somehow they all come together to function in a unit. You never see an octopus pulling tentacles two separate ways because the brain's misfired. They're always moving in such harmony. And I thought, this is what we should become as humans. We should become this harmony, but we can't become this harmony because it's not just, for example, our, like you said, bringing everything together. You can't just be like, oh, we're doing really poorly in our environmental scope of things. And so, we're just not going to get better, or we're going to try to be more ethical consumers. But if you're going to be better or more ethical consumer, what are your core values, or what are your beliefs, or what are your spirit systems that will support that? Because if you're going to force that upon yourself, it's kind of like food and diet, right? If you're going to force any of those popular diet systems upon yourself, but you're always going to crave the things that you crave, eventually your tolerance is going to give up. You're going to go back and have those. So you kind of need to change your system. And coming from the background and the work that I used to do, when you mentioned, gambling, alcohol, drugs, and all those things, in the financial world, the financial systems world, when you're dealing with very high stress jobs and people continuously feeling they're not good enough, or they didn't achieve, and they should have seen this coming, and they should have seen that happening, and all of those things, they end up so stressed that these avenues start becoming solutions for them. And so how do you,
that core belief, it needs to be balanced.
Right.
So if things are going really well, I'm doing good, I'm feeling really, important and good enough, and I feel successful and I'm happy and I'm content, but my core belief is not good enough, I am going to sabotage myself.
Yes. And sometimes eventually it ends too, because you're trying to stretch your moments in these fake beliefs. So I went through a phase where, I started making a little more money and more money. And at first, when you're making $5,000 a month and then you're making $50,000 a month, whoa, you're in heaven. And then when you go from, making $600,000 to $1 million, it's diminishing returns. There's no enjoyment anymore in that. And then you kind of fall back into your original self, and that drive that you had and the whole feeling of, not good enough that kind of made you so successful in the first place, because you look at Tom and Tom's doing so much better than you, and you really, try to become better. And one day you become better. I stopped doing what I was doing exactly because of that. There was no balance. And it was either me falling off into alcohol and drugs or many other things, or God knows what, to cope, essentially, because every minute was just bringing on the next in that way, and there was no satisfaction. Or it was me walking away and saying, I need to check myself. And I kind of did that. I walked away and I checked myself. And that's when I said, yeah, there's no contentment in this. It's just me kind of checklist. I did this. I bought this new shoe. I bought this new car. I bought the bigger house. It's always a continuous insanity.
And that kind of fits with that not good enough, right?
Yeah.
It's never enough. You just a little bit more, a little bit bigger, fancier car, a bigger house, so this, that's all because I don't feel good enough. So no matter what I have, it's not going to be enough. I always need a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more, right? When we look at those core beliefs, we need to reinforce and support that. So if I'm struggling, if I'm stressed, if I'm overwhelmed, I can go out and, get drunk. And for that brief little period of time, I feel good. Everything's fine. I'm having a great time. No worries. But now the next day, I'm hungover. I feel like crap. I spent more money than what I thought. I said something I shouldn't have done. I, broke a promise to myself or to someone else, ultimately reinforcing, see, not good enough, not important, not valued. So we often choose these more unhealthy coping strategies that give us a bit of a break where we don't have to deal with things. It's an escape. But ultimately they end up reinforcing that core belief after. So as that core belief shifts and changes and I feel more good enough, I still need breaks, but now I'm drawn to healthier ones. Like I go for a walk. I listen to music. I do some journaling. I go out with friends and have one drink as opposed to 17 drinks. And then I wake up in the morning. I feel good. I feel even better than I did before I went out because I use that break to rejuvenate myself. So I feel like, okay, I'm ready to kind of deal with life again. But that I'm reinforcing that core belief. That core belief doesn't challenge and shift and change. Those behaviors often end up reoccurring over and over and over again. That's why we see people making, the same choices over, this is my 7th unhealthy relationship. Yep. Makes sense because you haven't challenged that driving force. Somebody comes up to you and they're kind and they're respectful and they treat you well. Ooh, too clingy. Don't want to have anything to do with them. I like that guy over there that treats me like garbage and ignores me and, chooses his work, his friends, his whatever over me. That feels more balanced for me based on what I believe my value and my worth is.
Wow. That is,
and this is unconscious. I'm not even aware I'm doing it, right?
Yes. That's what I was thinking while you were talking. I was thinking many people do this and it's not even that they're thinking about it because, and that's what friends do, right? Then friends come and say, honey, you're worth so much more. Look. And then they start listing all the things and you're kind of dismissive towards your friends even because you think they don't understand you. They don't know what you're looking for, or maybe they're jealous because you're with this person you're happy with supposedly. And so you don't see the reality because this is on such a deeper level and it's happening so subconsciously. The sabotage is happening so subconsciously that you just don't know what's happening.
Exactly. And if you aren't aware, you're not going to change and do anything different. Why would you? Right.
This is a form of addiction too, right? In a sense, like it plays out in the same ways because when you speak to someone who is addicted to heroin and they're throwing their lives away and you tell them, just look around your apartment, right? And they can't see what you're seeing. It's because, they just, it's so subconsciously, they just can't anymore. You really have to pick them up to help them.
Right. What we really say is at the core belief of addictions is that core belief. And the more intense that core belief is, if I feel really not good enough, not important, not valued, those core belief or those coping strategies are going to be even more significant. So the addictions, are going to be more intense, more severe. The more that core belief is, the more emotion that we're holding in that we haven't felt, the stronger the coping strategy has to be to push those down and suppress them. So the more someone's hurting, the more someone's struggling, the more that core belief is there, the more emotional pain that's there, the more significant those coping strategies are, the more likely a coping strategy now becomes an addiction.
And I guess it works the other way around too, because I'm just thinking sometimes, you choose not to do something or go somewhere and you value yourself against that. I mean, I've traveled a lot and sometimes I'm in a place and, they're doing a zip line that looks like it's going to fall apart. And I say, I'm not doing that. And somebody else goes ahead and does it. And some people say that's a risk taker, you're risk averse and stuff. And I think to myself sometimes, no, I would love to do that. It seems like a lot of fun, but I value my life in a way, right? I'm not going to do something that is deteriorating or causing problems to myself. Maybe, from a positive perspective of not having that core belief of not good enough, but having a core belief of I value myself. So I'm going to balance my experiences so that I don't put myself in jeopardy, so to speak.
And I think one of the big things, so if my core belief is not good enough, not important, not valued, I'm not going to trust in myself in making decisions. So I'm either going to be all in or all out. I'm going to go on every zip line there is, no matter what, or I'm never going on a zip line at all. If my core belief is good enough, I trust in myself that in the moment I can evaluate the situation and make a decision that is in my best interest at that time. So maybe I go somewhere and, the zip line has 10,000 positive reviews and it looks good. The people they've got a huge safety plan and all that kind of stuff. I think, exactly. I'm going to go on the zip line today. Then I go to some other place and I think, that looks a little rusty. That doesn't look very, their equipment is all piled up in a corner and it's all wet and I'm not going to go on that one. So the more my core belief is good enough, important and valued, the more I believe in myself that I can make a decision in the moment. But people who struggle with that core belief, they don't believe in themselves that they can make that decision. They don't trust that they can make that decision. So they're often going from one extreme to the other, all in or all out. Then I don't ever have to make it.
Peer pressure kicks in easily then too, because I'm thinking back to the zip line. If it's a group of 4 people and one person has, the I'm not good enough core belief, and they kind of assess the situation and think it's not good, they'll still go because everybody's going, and who am I to say no? And
they'll often just follow the crowd.
I'll go and die right along with them.
And then they've got a perfect opportunity to blame, because if something goes wrong, they can say, "Well, you told me I had to go." Right. I don't have to take any responsibility for that. Whereas my core belief is good enough, I'm going to say, I'm not going to go. And even if I get that peer pressure of saying, come on, I am not going. You guys go, have a good time if you want. Or maybe I'll say, have you looked at these safety issues? These are concerns. Your decision is your decision. I'm still not going to try to change their mind because that's not my responsibility. But I may make them more aware of some of the things that I'm seeing that maybe they aren't seeing. But then it's their decision. And I'm okay to stay fast in my decision because I believe my decision is okay. And I'm okay if other people disagree with me. Core belief not good enough. I need that external validation. Yes. I need people to say, oh, good job. So I'm going to be much more willing to conform and go with the masses. Or again, to the other extreme, where I don't care about what anyone thinks. I'm going to do whatever I want. You either follow me or you don't. There's not that middle ground of I can make a decision based on what's best for me right now. And I'm okay if you don't agree with me.
This takes me to kind of maybe a little self-confidence, but also a lot of self-compassion. From what you're speaking, I mean, is self-compassion a part of this process of evaluating yourself or your core beliefs and how much it plays into your negativity?
As that core belief shifts and changes, and I feel more good enough, important and valued, I am going to have more self-awareness. I'm going to have more self-compassion. I'm going to be more willing to challenge myself and have personal growth. I am going to be way more willing to take responsibility and ownership for my own actions and behaviors. All of those things continue to grow and develop. I'm going to have more empathy towards others. And most of my clients, oh yeah, I have lots of empathy. But when we actually talk about what their empathy is, they're just trying to make someone else feel better. Mm-hmm. They're trying to fix the problem, distract them, make them feel better. That's not empathy. True empathy is, man, that sucks that you're going through that. That's it. I'm not fixing it. I'm not doing it for you. I'm here for you, but this is your journey and I trust in you that you can figure it out. So there's more of that true empathy, right? That kind of taking care of everyone else is another addiction, because as long as I'm running around taking care of everyone else, I don't have to deal with my own stuff. But I can also reinforce my core belief, not good enough. I do everything for everyone else. No one cares about me. No one stops and thinks about what I need. How come it's a one-way street? I do it for everybody else. No one, takes care of me. Reinforces and supports that core belief. Meanwhile, you're training people to do that. You're training people to be taken care of and not reciprocate. And then you get mad at them because you teach them that.
This is a question because of what you just said. Does culture play into this? Because I'm thinking of moms when you're saying all of this. That's what they do all their lives, even when they're, a lot of people maybe think a mom's job's over at maybe, 15 or something like that. But you have 40-year-old kids and their 7-year-old mom is still worried about, what they ate and did they dress warm enough in the winter and all those things. So it's a constant job forever. And I'm thinking, a lot of that is pushed onto, a mother because generally, she goes by the values that she sees in society. I mean, you see it in film, you see it in books, you see it in life, you see it in your community. How do you fix that?
For generations and generations and generations, it's a societal norm that's put on it. A lot of my clients are moms whose kids are now, in their 20s. And they say, I need to find myself again. I say, really? Did you ever find yourself? You never really knew who you were. You spent your whole life trying to please your parents, then trying to please your teachers and your profs if you went to college or university, then trying to please your boss and please your husband, then please your kids. You never actually took time to figure out who you are. So now you feel lost and out of control. You feel not good enough. You feel not valued because you've never actually stopped to really just figure out, who am I? What are my passions? What am I good at? What are the things that that fuel me and make me want to get up and do things more? We need to go back and figure that out. Society has definitely put that on. I mean, honestly, they do it to men too, right? You gotta please your parents. You gotta please your boss. You've got to be successful. We're doing all these things to try to make everyone else happy when really there isn't anyone else. It's this idea of a societal norm that has been passed on for generations and generations, rather than really stopping and going, what do I want? A lot of people or they'll say what they want and I'll say, well, why do you want that? Oh, because that's what I've been told since I was 3. Probably not a good enough reason to want it now. Might still be what you want, but there needs to be a better reason of why you want that, why that's important to you. But if I spend my whole life trying to make everyone else happy, I'm not focusing on me. My core belief is going to be not good enough, not important, not valued.
We almost need a generational mindset shift, so to speak, to incorporate the things you're talking about. So in your practice, in your speaking engagements, everything that you do, what is it that you do with parents or teachers or people who deal with our future generation to start allowing them to grow with stronger core beliefs. If I ask this from a coach, a hockey coach or a basketball coach in I guess middle school, they do things a little differently than coaches in college or coaches in professional leagues, the NHL, the NBA. And the reason is you're developing the child to be able to reach that stage, so to speak, right? And each phase has its own developments, but when you connect them, you notice why this person is now in the NHL because of a certain regimen that they go through. So how does that look like from your world and what you do?
So again, just because you're in the NHL doesn't mean your core belief is good enough, important to value, right?
That's what I mean. So how do we, right?
So, like you said, in the beginning, I was a teacher for, 20 years. I learned about this model of therapy and decided to switch and start this model of therapy. But I spent my whole life working with kids. So I thought, well, I'll work with kids with this core belief. No, it's not how it works. Got to work with the parents. It's way easier for the parents to teach this and develop it into their children because they're believing it within themselves. If I try to just focus on the kids, it's not going to get to the parents. So the vast majority of my clientele is adults. I'm probably, late 20s to, my oldest clients are in their 70s. And I'm about 50-50 men and women right now as well. And we just start by the awareness. I have to become aware of how often that voice is popping up and influencing my choices, my decisions, my behaviors, my perceptions. The more I become aware, because like I said, it's unconscious. If it's unconscious, I'm not going to do anything about it. So the first step is really increasing that awareness of when I'm doing it, how I'm doing it, what it looks like, what coping strategies I'm using to avoid dealing with it, and then slowly start to challenge and change that. So my counseling process, we actually go through and talk about all of your life experiences and try to gain an understanding of how has that core belief developed over the years. It's not so much the experiences, it's how the experiences are handled. In so many cases, experiences create emotions. We don't want to feel our emotions, so we just ignore and avoid the situation. So, my grandpa passes away. I'm allowed to be sad for a day, and then it's like, okay, well, move on. You're good. Get over it. Right? We don't ever talk about him again. He just becomes kind of lost. Well, my grandpa dying is emotional. It's trauma for me. It creates an impact on me. But now how it was dealt with is something I will carry forever. He's gone. I can't go back. I can't change that. But the emotional impact of all these experiences that we carry feed us over and over and over and over and over again. And so we need to work on getting a better understanding of how that works. And even like you said with the hockey, analogy and coaches kind of trying to inspire their players. I was listening to Jody Carrington and she was talking about, as you want your players to skate faster, know their dog's name. Most coaches just go faster, go faster, go faster, go faster. There's no personal value in that. But when my coach knows my dog's name, now I feel important. I feel valued. I feel good enough. There's a sense of connection there. I am going to work way harder for him. And that's the same thing I saw as a teacher. I was a learning assistant teacher, but also did a lot of work with a lot of kids with severe behavior problems. But I didn't have a lot of behavior problems in my classroom because when they would come in, I would say, what do you need from me? How can I support you? Take a break. Go take some time. Let your cortisol levels go back down. And then you tell me what you need from me, what I can do to support you. Well, now all of a sudden they feel valued. They feel important. They feel good enough. So all their defense mechanisms come right down and we're able to have a conversation of what I can do to support them as they're trying to figure out what they need to do and how they need to go and, deal with the situation that happened in the classroom that got them kicked out of class and sent to my office in the first place. So the more we value someone else, the more they're going to slowly start to feel that sense of value. When I'm talking with, corporations that are wanting to kind of work on, workplace, wellness, that's one of the things I talk about is, your workplace may be the only place where some of your employees ever feel good enough. you're going to have a very loyal employee then. Your retention rate is going to go really, 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 really high. But if they come to work, they feel not good enough, not important, not valued, they don't feel seen, they don't feel heard, it's going to be a rotating thing because they get that all day, every day of their life. Why would they, want to stay for that?
Now, staying with this, since you spent quite some time in education, and I really have a liking for changing education so that we can be better in those kind of ways. What would you say to teachers in the way of influencing the development of their students' core beliefs? If you had to just advise teachers, because we get a lot of people from education at Compassiviste, because we are developing Compassiviste education, and so a lot of people listen to people like yourself coming on with vast amount of experience and kind of saying something that then becomes a whole model for a lot of the teachers because they really understand it and they really take it to heart.
One of the most basic things is meet them at the door and say good morning to them. Be in the halls, smile at them, ask them how their day is. The amount of behavioral issues you will have if you have a connection with those kids is going to go down significantly. You see a child who's struggling, who's having a hard time, you can go and whack the behavior, but that's going to feed more behavior. Ask them, what can I do? How can I help you? When I started this practice, I was, not flush enough that I could just practice yet. It took me a while to get my company up and running. So I was TOCing part-time and I was TOCing in a junior high school. And sitting in the desk and the door opened. I got up and was starting to kind of chat with some of the kids. And this kid walked in and he had his cap down over and he just was owly. Oh, I knew. I thought, okay, here we go. And so sure enough, we start the lesson. Within 3 minutes into the class, he's being disruptive. He's being rude. I don't want him to lose face. So I said, you need to go in the hall right now. So he gets up and goes in the hall. Want all the kids to think, oh yeah, he's getting in trouble. I go in the hall, I close the door and I said, how can I help you? And he looked at me. What are you talking about? I said, what do you need from me? I can see you're off. We want to get through this day. I want to have a good block. You want to have a good block. What do we need to do to get through this next 50-minute class where we can handle things? If you want me to just let you be and you're not going to disrupt the class, but I'm not going to ask you a bunch of questions. I'm not going to talk to you. That's fine. What do you need from me? He says, well, I don't know. I'm like, okay, well, it's okay if you take a few minutes. How about we agree that you're going to go in? I'm just going to let you be. You're not going to disrupt my class. If you think of something that you need from me, all you need to do is put your hand up, get up and walk out of class. I will come after and check and see what you need. Write me a note. You let me know whatever it is that you need. We good? He's like, fine, whatever. Walked into class. He was fine. Saw him about 7 years later. Taught him one block. He came over and said hi to me. Kids are struggling. We are struggling as human beings, not just kids. We need to look past the behaviors. Nobody wakes up in the morning and goes, man, I am just going to be a raging jerk today. It's coming from somewhere. We don't know what happened. We don't know if they were able to sleep in their own bed the night before because their mom and dad got in a big fight and they got drug out and slept on their auntie's couch in the middle of the night. Their parents haven't been gone. If one isn't working, if their parents are fighting, we have no idea. But their behavior is a reflection of what is going on inside. If we take 2 minutes and just stop and acknowledge that, it can make a massive shift in things. We know just smiling at people when you're walking down the street, saying hi to people when you're walking, it shifts things. If I actually stop and give someone 2 minutes of my time where I'm just listening to them, I'm not solving it for them. I'm just validating what they're going through. I see you. I can see you're struggling. Is there anything I can do to help? It can be life-changing.
This is so true on so many levels, not just for teachers, but I'm hoping a lot of teachers take this and start doing it. But on so many levels, just being human with each other, caring, and being there for each other, just that compassion. It makes a huge difference.
So I've been doing this for 15 years. So I've worked with a lot of people, and part of the process is gathering information and learning about all their experiences. And one of the things I say is there a teacher in elementary, junior high, and high school that really stands out? An adult, whether it's the custodian, the librarian, an EA, an administrator, is there an adult that stands out in a positive or negative way? For every single one who've said there's a positive influence who's been, not one has said they knew how to rock the curriculum. They all said they made me feel safe. They made me feel heard. They made me feel connected. They made me feel important. They could see that I was having a hard day and they would come and talk to me. I felt safe in their classroom. That's key. It's not the curriculum.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of teachers are struggling and hurting and have that core belief too. So if my core belief is not good enough as a teacher, and now I have to go and put myself out there and connect with all these kids, that's scary. It's easier for me to just be grumpy, be irritated. These kids these days, now I got an excuse and reinforce. See, I'm working. I'm doing the best I can. Reinforces my core belief as well. But if you just try it one day, you will notice a difference. And then the second day is way easier. By the fifth day, you don't even notice that you're struggling at all. You're just feeling way more connected, and it will shift the way your classroom is. The more connected you are with your kids, the more your kids are connected with you, the more you're going to work together as a team. Kind of like you said.
And the better your life gets too, because when you leave that school, you're not taking all that stress with you. You're taking these beautiful memories. You know, when you're talking about this, I remember I had a friend who was, in education, studying, getting her master's, and basically, they had to teach in different places. It was part of like kind of how doctors do residencies. And she was exactly like that. She loved what she was doing. You know, she was so happy and excited about it. And when she'd leave school, if you'd meet her after, she's telling all these lovely stories about the kids and the interactions they had. And, this kid gave her a hug before his mom picked him up, and it was so sweet. And she's radiating, right? And sometimes you'd meet friends who, come back from school and they need a drink because, oh my God, school, right? And you get these two different levels of teachers. Yeah. You're right. You're absolutely right. Yeah.
And again, we like balance. So if I'm more open to connect at school, I feel better. But now I'm also going to be more open to connect at home. It's way easier for me to connect with some stranger or some kid I'm going to see for 200 days and then, not really see again for years and years and years. But to go home to my own kids, to my own partner every single day, that's vulnerable. But if I can get better at connecting with, students, with staff, with my, my employers, those kind of things, I'm going to be able to connect more and more with my family as well and let them in. Then I'm going to appreciate and value that as well. If I come home from work and I'm grumpy, I'm still getting something out of that, because when I'm grumpy at home, what's my family doing? Ooh, they're backing away and backing off. So I get to stay disconnected from them as well. And so it feeds it's like that octopus. It's so intertwined and connected that once we actually start using these pieces together, then we start seeing a really successful unison. But as soon as we break everything up into little choppy pieces, it starts falling apart.
Now, a question about the little child that you mentioned, the example you gave where we don't know if that kid slept in their own bed last night. How do unresolved past experiences, I guess, perpetuate negative core beliefs? Because I'm assuming, this is a very short-term past. I mean, it happened last night. The kid comes to school the next day, a lot of emotions, but this could happen for 5 or 7 years or 10 years of really dysfunctional life for the child. And now they're 27 and they're sabotaging their own life, like we spoke about earlier, or whatever they're doing. where do you fall on this? I mean, some people say, suck it up and, just change your life around, or, it happened and it happens to everybody and whatever. And they just dismiss it, and you just have to suck it up and continue. And it really is like that. And some people are mindful and caring, and they say, okay, let's try to see, what do we do here? I mean, you went through this trauma and it's unresolved and it's sitting there. What do we do about it? So is there a resolving mechanism, and how much does this affect our lives?
So I think the key word there is resolved or unresolved. So trauma is significant, violence in the home, sexual abuse, physical abuse, all that trauma is trauma. There's no doubt about it. But what resolves it or unresolves it is how it's dealt with. So if I am sexually abused and I already feel disconnected, I can't talk to my parents, I now have to hold that in. And the vast majority of kids do. The vast majority of kids don't ever tell or disclose any kind of sexual abuse that's going on. So now I'm not just dealing with the experience that happened, whether it was once or 50 times. I'm now dealing every day. I keep pushing it away, creates emotion. The experience is over with. It's done with. What I carry with me is the emotional impact. Over time, that emotion gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. So if I have two kids, one child that is sexually abused by a neighbor, let's say, the other child sexually abused by the neighbor. One kid comes home and dad has a lot of anger. Mom's busy all the time. She's kind of short and impatient. We don't really connect. We don't spend a lot of time together. I am not going to tell. There's no foundation there for me to tell. I'm probably even going to start to display some behaviors. Maybe I'm crying. I'm more clingy. I don't want to go to school. I'm wetting the bed. I've got anger. I'm going to be trying, hello, somebody help me. But everyone's so caught up in their own chaos and their own stuff, no one notices. Now I have another child, sexually abused, comes home. They sit around the table at supper time. They talk about things. They are able to talk about their emotions and what they're feeling in that family. That child comes home. There's a very high likelihood that child is going to tell their parents what happened. The parents get them help, get them support, deal with the offender. They handle that situation. And maybe even the child doesn't tell, but again, unconsciously, they're going to start to show things and the parent's going to go, something's off. They're acting very different than what they usually are. They're going to keep talking to the child. What's going on? Something's happening. You can tell us, talk to us about what's going on. They're going to feel like a safe place. Likelihood that child's going to tell. They get them the help they need. Take both those kids, grow them up to 27. One is going to struggle a lot more than the other. So trauma is significant. It changes the brain. It has an impact. There's no doubt about it, but it's how that trauma is handled that has a really significant lifelong impact. Mm-hmm. If it's ignored, if it's avoided, if it's pushed down, that emotion builds and builds and builds and builds and builds. Now I can't feel any emotion because if I feel even just a little bit of emotion, it's going to trigger all this other emotion. So I lock everything off. The only emotion I allow myself to feel is anger. What we say about anger is not a standalone emotion. Anger is actually a coping strategy I use to avoid feeling emotions I don't want to feel. So when I start feeling vulnerable, anxious, sad, lonely, fear, switch it to anger. Now people back off and leave me alone so those emotions go away. Or now I just have to feel angry. I don't have to feel those other emotions. Anger's been socially acceptable for generations. I'm okay to feel angry. If I can feel my emotions, if I can recognize them, label them, get them out, I don't have to keep carrying them. That's the issue in our society today is everyone is full up with emotion because they don't know how to identify and label their emotions and let them out. Once you start letting those emotions out, the relief that comes with that is, honestly, if you've never done it, it's inimaginable because you've never done it.
Mm-hmm. I had a friend of mine and we were older at this point, not young, and his mom and his dad always bickered. But it was kind of comedic to the family that they do this all the time because they were elderly, and so it was funny. But she used to always say, you see this pressure cooker, I release this valve and everything's okay. The food's going to be fine. If I don't release this valve, the whole kitchen's going to explode. When God made him, he made him without the valve. So he just has to explode because there's no other way of doing it. And she was really saying what you're saying in a sense, but she didn't know how to say it.
And, and some people say, well, I'm exploding. I'm letting off that emotion. Not really. When you're exploding, sure, you're letting it out, but it's all falling right back on top of you. But now you also need to carry more emotion because you've just exploded in front of people you're supposed to love and care about. So now you get to carry shame, guilt, regret, disconnected, judged, all those other emotions just from that one explosion as well. So the explosion actually creates more emotion, and it just keeps building and building and building. And we use all kinds of different things to push that back down. Drugs, alcohol, gambling.
That's what those are, right? I mean, that's really what a lot of shopping, this excessive, the shopping
Lying,
therapy and stuff. And all those things are just like, they've
stealing.
become,
when I was in the schools and I was learning this model of therapy, and kid would, steal something. And I would say to them, okay, when you stole, how did you feel? They'd say, oh, I felt really bad. No, you didn't. When you actually were stealing, what did you feel? Well, I didn't have to feel the hurt, the pain, the sadness, the loneliness. I felt excited. I felt euphoric. The guilt and the shame came after you had done it. But in that moment, when I do that actual behavior, I don't have to feel those emotions. It's a way of suppressing it. That's really, if we look at the definition of an unhealthy coping strategy, that is one of the biggest things, is it is used to suppress emotions. So we often talk about coping strategies being healthy or unhealthy. Coping strategy isn't healthy or unhealthy. It's how I choose to use it. So if I have a drink once in a while when I go out with friends, it's a healthy coping strategy. If I get drunk out of my gourd, it's an unhealthy coping strategy. Reading, right? If I read for an hour before bed, probably a healthy coping strategy. And most people would say, oh, reading is a really healthy coping strategy. Well, I have clients that read till 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and then they are in a brain fog and late for work, and they prefer the life of the characters in their book to their own reality. Well, that's an unhealthy coping strategy. So a coping strategy, whether it's healthy or unhealthy, depends on how I choose to use it. Am I using it that's reinforcing, supporting, good enough, important, and valued, allowing me to feel my emotions? Or am I using it to disconnect, to push people away, to shut down my emotions? And then ultimately it ends up reinforcing, not good enough, not important, not valued. So the same coping strategy can be used in both ways, depending on how I choose to use it.
And that really depends on how healthy I am.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Essentially, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to end on a good note because you put a lot of weight on how we're doing as a society, but going into your mind and your history of your work, what is the one situation, whether in school or clients today, that you've worked with someone and you feel so proud and so happy and so content with the work that developed and the outcome that happened? I mean, when you're thinking of that one kid that you helped and 7 years later they said hi to you, that makes you feel somehow, right? What's the one person that comes to mind right away and you can talk about it and say, this is what happened and it has a happy ending?
Well, in all honesty, that would probably be myself and my relationship with my boys. I have 2 adult sons now. Before I learned this model of therapy, my core belief was not good enough, not important, not valued. I did for them. I put my needs of what I needed to do to prove to myself that I was a good enough mom over their needs of what they really needed for them to help grow and develop. So as I learned this model of therapy, my relationship with myself and my relationship really with everyone, but the most important ones are with my sons, has changed dramatically. And so I have a much more connected relationship with both of my sons. My core belief is much more good enough, important now than it's ever been. And my boys' core belief is much more good enough, important, and valued as well. So that would be the epiphany of one, I guess, for sure. With all my clients, I get to see this on a regular basis where they're going, oh, I get it. I never thought about it like that before. Oh, I see it. Once we have awareness, then we can start to challenge ourselves and do things differently. So, even listening to this podcast, you're shifting your core belief. You're making a connection, seeing things, understand. Even clicking on this podcast is challenging that core belief because you're willing to try something new and learn something new. All these little tiny steps challenge and create that core belief, good enough, important, and valued.
I sometimes say, even if you don't believe in whatever it is that you're clicking on, do it so that your mindset changes. I was with a friend of mine, and he wanted to lose weight and get in shape because we went to the doctor, and he was, the doctor's like, you're going to have a heart attack any minute now. So he had to really, shift. So, we went, bought some runners and stuff like that. And somebody was selling one of these bracelets that kind of make you healthier and stuff. And he's like, oh, these are lies and whatever. I said, you know what? It may be a lie. It's $2. It's a rubber bracelet. Just wear it because you're going to change your mind thinking that you can do this, and it helps you change your mindset. If you keep saying this doesn't work, that's a lie. I don't know. I've read that treadmills don't really help and this is that. You're just going to keep connecting yourself with negativity all the time. Let's, bite the bullet here and pretend we believe in this salesperson and just buy that element and, make it a core belief difference, a core belief change essentially, so that you can go into that positivity instead of sticking in the I'm not good enough stage. So I can relate to what you're saying.
If you believe in yourself, you can handle it, you'll do it. If you don't believe you can handle it, you're not going to do it. So I can make all the excuses. The excuses are, again, everything we do for a reason. So what do I get out of making excuses? I don't have to change. I don't have to do anything different. I can stay stuck. We get something very significant out of being stuck. I don't have to try anything different. I don't have to take a risk. I don't have to step outside of my comfort zone. Right. So every time we do that, we are challenging and developing that core belief, good enough, important, and valued, for sure.
Sabrina Trobak, thank you very much for speaking on Compassiviste Dialogues, and thank you for your dedication to guiding others on their healing journeys. This holistic approach that you have, I guess to me, it offers the starting point of a roadmap to transform feelings of inadequacy and into empowerment of some sort and self-acceptance and the building of self-confidence. And I think when someone starts the conversation from that space, it only just gets better as you get more involved with them. So I'd like everybody to visit Sabrina's Trobak Holistic Counseling. We have the links here below. And we have Compassiviste there to follow and share, so I can bring you more amazing people like Sabrina. But, start with her book, get in touch, email, call, show up there if you're around. But that's what we need to do. We need to interact more with people who are positive in that way and who can make change in society. I mean, the things you're saying are just the things we need to implement. And I think the more people hear more people like yourself, we're going to find that change in society, and we're going to start growing into the awareness that you speak about, because it's there, it's growing. We're not in an age where it doesn't exist anymore. I mean, not too long ago, there was an age it didn't exist. When I was in school, it was really hard to find somebody like you. But today we're finding more people like that. So it's positive.
Right. We didn't talk about any of that stuff. So there is way more awareness now, which is good. That's what we need to do to change.
Exactly. Sure. And it grows. So thank you for sharing. We're here to help change the world together. I'm Ali Horiat.